uppercut, uppercut, sonic boom! Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too, welcome back to the channel. I'm Bushka, and today's video is sponsored by PUBG Mobile. Now, they were good enough to give me the opportunity to come up with my own topic for this, and I came up with the damage versus control concept, which is something that is inherent in our gameplay. There is a reason that everyone loves running the M416, but I honestly think that a huge section of the player base is sleeping on a lot of opportunities that they could get from running different weaponry, or even understanding how the weaponry can be exploited exceptionally easily if you just know what you're talking about. And I also want to talk about the damage versus control factor, where it leaves off, like where the ultimate efficiency is for running an M416 versus a Graza or a Barrel M762, where a DP28 is worth holding onto instead of, say, I don't know, an M249. Anyway, let's hop right to it. We're going to do this by beginning our journey down the rabbit hole with some raw hard numbers. And we get those raw hard numbers from the best raw hard numbers site on the planet, the Bushka.com, which is where you can go for all the real PUBG Mobile numbers, not the PC stuff. So this is my PUBG Mobile stats page, the Bushka.com. Not enough people watch this page because they still think the PC numbers are all correct, but this is the ARs. Now, the column we're looking at over here in particular is the time to kill column, and this is basically something that I've really brought to the fore on this channel, is how a lot of guns have a innate advantage in the time to kill. Now, the time to kill is based around a level 2 best, but the M416 at first spec doesn't look that crash hot. It's got a 0.38 second time to kill. The AKM has a 0.297 second time to kill, and the Graza is 0.237 seconds, which is amazing. And that makes you wonder why people would run the M416 nearly as a religious experience and not run anything else. Especially when you can get a gun like the Barrel M762, which is nearly 0.1 of a second faster in terms of time to kill. Now, there's something else to be mentioned here. All these other guns, the SCAR-L, the QBZ-95, the AUG, all these other guns that have the same stats as an M416, they don't get run nearly as much. And the reason for this is fairly obvious. It's the control factor that the M416 brings to the table. By the way, if you want to know the PC numbers, go somewhere else. But if you want to know the real PUBG Mobile numbers, maybe you should come along here and check it out, because I've got all the numbers for all the guns. So there are a lot of guns that you can use that work like this. Some of them are weapons that people don't even think would work like this. And I'll get to that in just a wee short while. The obvious two that everyone loves to use are the DP28 and the M416. And the two things that they have that really make them work fantastically well is that straight out of the box, their recoil profile is very conducive to gentle, friendly spray. But they are not the only two weapons where this will work. In fact, not by a long shot. And I'm going to point out two candidates that a lot of people don't seem to think of as spraying quality weapons. And that is the Barrel M762, which with a 3X on it, you can still hit an awful lot of long-range spray as long as you equip it correctly with, say, a compensator and an angled grip, or a compensator and a vert, or a compensator and a horizontal and a half grip. And look, I just want to point out that I'm not saying that all weapons suck or all weapons are good or this is the weapon you have to use. I mean, I'm using an SKS here because it's the only gun I had on a hot drop, and I'm using it for close quarters combat, and then I'll switch it out and use it in sniping. And that's because the game is obviously not black and white. It's a lot of shades of grey where you have to make decisions based on resources and likelihood of enemies to be faced and all that kind of thing. And this brings me to my next point. If you're running solo, you can quite often run your chosen weapon like an M4 and slot it in with, I've known this is a crazy thing, but I've seen a lot of people running shotguns lately. An over-under meta or an S12K or something in the secondary slot, because the stopping power on these things is phenomenal. You only have to hit once and it's the end of the game for that poor bloke Nano. The over-under does not screw about. It is a lethal weapon, but it is not a very easy weapon to carry in a squad match. In a squad match, if you've got an over-under on your secondary, you're really limiting yourself. So the people that you're playing against is going to be incredibly important. And even with an S12K, you can see sometimes it takes 3 shots. Like, there's nothing guaranteed in this world. The game is all variance. But knowing your numbers is important, as I make the call of the bot to try to track the bloke across the way. Yep, there he comes. And he is going to have an M416 with a silencer, and I'm going to have a barrel M762. And this is what happens. The barrel shreds the M4 in terms of damage. So when can you start using a barrel instead of an M4? Well, that shouldn't be the way you're thinking. What you should probably be thinking is, how do I like to play the game? And why don't I use a barrel and an M4? Like, you can run a double AR meta all the time, or an Uzi and an M4. And I've seen a lot of pro players doing just that, running, say, an M4 and an Uzi, and then switching between one and the other. Knowing your numbers is really important. And other factors come into play here as well. But if you're playing TPP particularly, you really get the opportunity to choose your engagements. It's very, very easy in TPP to choose your engagements. And I'm surprised at how few people run the M762. If you love watching Choco Taco, you'd know he runs this thing like, you know, if this wasn't an M762 right now, I would probably not make this push. Like, there's a dude I knocked earlier, and there's a squad down there, and I'm going to use my ranged weaponry, and then I'm going to get in close to use my big dog. Now, the reason this works so well is because obviously you can single tap out someone with a Kar 98K, and then you can use your M762 on the push. Now, if you're running down there with an M4, I want you to start considering the concept that time to kill in this situation is everything. Like, 0.28 versus 0.38 is 0.1 of a second. Well, for a lot of this, 0.1 of a second is the difference between life and death. Look, I've got no health. The circle is coming in. My heal is going to hit. Look how close it is to dying here. Like, 0.1 of a second there is a huge difference. And I had 1% health left at the end of that. And if that's an M4, that's a loss. Here we are, and there's a door there, and the bloke's going to come through the door, and this is the perfect weapon. Now, it's not that you can't do this with an M416 or a DP28. The fact of the matter is you can, but this is the other gun. This is the gun that just doesn't get used enough. I used to think that the recoil was out of control on this. It's not. I've used the M249 a lot over the past few months, and it is the gift that keeps on giving. The M249 can reliably spray, and it's got the same kind of time to kill as you get on a Graza. It's 2.243. It's faster than a Barrel M762, and it's faster than a Graza. It's not quite as fast as a Graza, but it's close enough that there's nearly no difference. And yet it has 100 rounds in the clip, and it's got a controllable recoil. And so you really have to start balancing this out, because so many people seem to pick up the M4 and that's it. That's the end of their gameplay. They see the guys putting out montages of TPP sprays with 3 times and 6 times on Instagram, and they're like, that's me, man, that's me. And I find that just very narrow and very constricted in terms of view. There are so many weapons out there that have enough control and do more damage, and I don't think that people take advantage of that often enough. What kind of range would I suggest that you start looking for? Something that is more, more built towards CQC or close quarters combat. Anything inside of about 40 meters is where you want to be running the big dog. Like, this is a Graza versus an M249. If I am not running the M249 there, I am dead. That's all there is to it. And you can see it's not horrible in terms of spray. It does have a lot of controllable recoil. Like, the recoil is not disastrous at all. So anything inside of 30 or 40 meters, you want to be using a gun that has an advantage. And here is my final point that I think is so important. If the majority of the player base is running an M416, and they are, and they're using that as their primary weapon, then there is a real marketplace for you to run a secondary weapon outside of an M4, that dominates in close quarters combat and chew these kind of guys up. Now, the M4 is popular because control allows you at that kind of range to dominate. And I will give you this. That is absolutely the best stock standard kind of all-purpose gun that you'll find to do that with. But if everyone is going to be running around doing that, then you can find something on the margins that allows you to get an advantage, get an edge, get something that lets you be more successful. And you can do that by running your M762s or your AKMs, or, you know, even some of the SMGs. Like, I run the Vector a lot. The Uzi is excellent for this. The MP5K is gorgeous. These are all weapons where you can 100% be more successful in close quarters combat. And it's not that you won't win if you've got an M416. I mean, this guy's got a Graza. I've got an M416. You've probably seen this clip before. And you've got to hit. But in corridor fighting, in the close quarters combat, you can jury-rig the engagement so that you end up fighting with the weapon that you want to fight in the situation you want to fight. Please don't take this as an essay against the M416. What this is trying to open up the mind of some of the player base to the possibility that they are actually at a disadvantage by consistently just running the one gun. It might suit your playstyle, that's well and good, but I would suggest you maybe take the opportunity to try other, more capable weapons in the damage versus control pantheon. I'm Bushka. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to subscribe and like the videos. And as always, look after yourselves and stay safe in the battlefield. And thanks again to PUBG Mobile for giving me the opportunity to make these kind of videos on my channel. Rock on, humans.